Hi, my name is Bam and welcome back to my channel. I haven't sat down and actually filmed a video in a little bit. I posted a short last week when I was at home, but I took a bit of a mini break because my mental health has not been great. It's still not great, but I have read a lot this month, and this is my January wrap up. At the core of it, my iPad has been my best friend. Ebooks have been incredibly helpful, and Libby is great. So this is my wrap up of January. I read 3 books in January, which is really, really good for me. Considering last year I averaged about a book a month, being able to read 3 books in January was pretty incredible, to be honest. I'm actually pretty surprised that I actually managed to do it. So this video is my wrap up, obviously, but I am pulling a Mochi Bujo and combining it with my reading journal. I have filmed a couple of time lapses and a flip through of the spreads that I did in my reading journal for the books that I read in January, and that was what you will see now. I will do a voiceover for each of the things, and yeah. The first book that I read in January was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I read this as part of Carrie Can Read's book club, which is a new thing that is happening this year, and I adored it. This time lapse is before I registered that I should probably do a real-time film and speed it up, so I'm going to talk as fast as I feasibly can. But I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. My review is on Instagram for anybody who wants more in-depth thoughts on my part. I really like the spread. The left corner is probably my favourite. But yeah, I adored this book. I will talk to you more about it in just a second. But yeah, the spread was really fun for me to make. Hi, quick back to me because I had way less time to record that time lapse than I thought I did. But yes, Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson was the first book that I read this year, and it was a 5 stars, and I probably couldn't have asked for anything better. I read it on ebook, and I do have the novella that I'm hoping to finish in February, because I started it, but then I got caught up with the other books that I started in January, and it kind of fell to the wayside, so I'm planning on finishing it. But yeah, this book is a fantasy standalone that follows a character called Elizabeth, who was raised in a magic library. The plot is very simple, but it's simple in a really, really enjoyable way. And the world building is super interesting. I love Rogerson's writing style. And I really like the way that she does characters. Nathaniel and Silas are really good protagonists alongside Elizabeth. And the three of them make a really good group. Like I said, my review is on Instagram. I will link all of my Instagram reviews in the description down below if you do want to kind of read a bit more of a concrete way that I reviewed this book. I'm way better at writing than I am speaking, but I am trying my best with this wrap up. And yeah, so Sorcery of Thorns was a great book to start my year off with. And like I said in my voiceover, I do love the spread that I made. It's really nice that it's the first one sort of in the New Year section of my journal. So on to the next book. So the second book that I read in January was The Hunger Games. This might come as a surprise to some people, but I have never read The Hunger Games until this month. I don't know why I decided to read it on a whim. I think because I just found it on Libby and I was like, oh yeah, I've never read The Hunger Games before, and so I have started that series, and I am currently reading Mockingjay. I'm about halfway through, so this, for anybody who doesn't know, I guess if you've been living under a rock, The Hunger Games is a dystopian novel that follows a girl called Katniss as she volunteers to take her sister's place in a battle royale death game. On the surface it sounds absolutely buck wild, but it is genuinely a really, really good book, and Suzanne Collins has 100% like deserved to have her place in pop culture that she does. I went into this book having seen the first movie, like snippets of the second, snippets of the third, and like half of the fourth. So I know like a good portion of the story, while also like having never read and having partially no idea what the hell is going on. And yeah, this book had my brain going crazy because it is genuinely such a good like read. It's enjoyable, and it's like it had my analytical brain going. My little English lit heart was like having a great time with all of like the themes and the like, you know, the stuff that that is found in it. I am currently scripting a longer form review of the series. So that should hopefully come out at some point in February. And that will kind of go into more detail about the analysis that I did, looking into like the classism and the commodification of people and relationships and like war and peace and everything. But obviously I can't post that until I finished Mockingjay and added that to my review. But on the whole, like this first book was really, really gripping, and I really, really enjoyed it. I really like Katniss as a character, and Peter is my favourite. I love my little baby bread boy. Yeah, this was genuinely like really good, and I think it was really worth it. And I am happy that I read it as an adult rather than a teenager, because I think if I'd read it as a teenager, I would have disliked Katniss a lot. But as an adult, I can kind of like understand her a lot more, without kind of finding her annoying, which I think is like a risk that can happen with characters like Katniss, when you read them without kind of having life experience yourself. But yeah, the writing was like really good. It was really like easy to follow and fast paced. The characters, I loved the characters, and all of the emotional beats like really hit. Like I said, I'm going to talk a lot more about it in my sort of deeper review. So yeah, I will leave you with the rest of this time lapse. And following along from the Hunger Games, the third and final book that I read in January was Catching Fire, also by Suzanne Collins. This is the second book in the Hunger Games trilogy, which it's got a fourth one now, but I don't know if I'm going to read that one yet. Yeah, Catching Fire, I rated 4.75. However, it is my favourite book of January. I had a great time, honestly. From just like a general standpoint, it's a really, really good sequel, because it does a lot to build upon the world building that is already established, while also kind of giving a lot of new information that is really, really interesting. Plus, we get new characters who I will talk about in a minute. As I was making this spread, because I made this earlier before I filmed the rest of this and I'm doing these voiceovers, but as I was making the spread, my glue roller ran out and I didn't have any refills. So in the middle of this, you will see me take an emergency trip to Asda to get a glue stick, in which I got a pack of 3. I don't normally use glue sticks because they're kind of annoying, but this one was okay. So yeah, that happened in the middle. It got me out of the house at least, even if it was just for glue, but I was in desperate need and I wanted to finish this video today. So anyway, back to Catching Fire. Yeah, while the Hunger Games kind of had like my analytical brain going because it was like a new world and I was like looking, yeah, there I'm going, there I am. Yeah, while the Hunger Games had my analytical brain going because it was like this new world and I was learning all of its like intricacies, Catching Fire did a really good job of keeping me emotionally invested. Peter and Katniss like have a really good relationship in this, like as it develops, you know, and from like the halfway point, like from the interviews of the Quarter Quell onwards, the pacing is like so gripping. I think I read most of the book in one night because after the Quarter Quell interviews, there was no good place to stop. Everything just kept happening, and I was so engaged. And I think this one might be my favourite of the trilogy, depending on how Mockingjay continues to go. But I really, really liked this. Finnick has been added to my favourite characters roster. I love him a lot, partially because he gives me a lot of like Peter vibes, and you know, as we've established, I love Peter. But then I also really, really like Johanna. She is like a no fucks given kind of girly, and I appreciate that immensely. Yeah, again, I will talk a lot more in detail about like this book in my longer form review, but yeah, just in general, I loved this one and I'm very attached to everybody and I'm so stressed about what's happening in Mockingjay at the moment. I'm very afraid of what's going to happen. Yeah, this spread took me a bit to kind of figure out what I wanted to do with it, but I like how it ended up. I think the title could have been nicer, but I didn't want to add any more like white space. It was kind of getting to an annoying point. And there is like a big 0 space in like the left-hand corner, which is mildly annoying, but we move. I will leave you with the rest of this time lapse. friends, was my January wrap up. I hope you liked my spreads. I hope you liked what I had to say about the books that I read, as minimal as it might have been. Yeah. This will be the format for all of my wrap-ups, just because I will have more to talk about if I'm speaking over journal spreads. So expect this at the start of every month for the month before, should I manage to like film in time. In the comment section, maybe talk about what books you read, how many books you read this month, what your favourite book was. Mine was Catching Fire, if I didn't mention that already. I may have only given it a 4.75, but it was my favourite book of this month. And I look forward to doing another one of these at the end of the month. Doing my journal spreads has been very fun, and all of the new supplies that I've got has been really, really nice. This is what I listened to this month. This is what I watched. Talk to me about that too, to be honest. And I will see you in the next video, whenever that may be. Bye.